Good evening, Facebook friends and followers, even YouTube and families. Today we have Miss Anita, or Mistress, sorry, Anita with us, and she's going to take you through her faith journey. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. She's going to give you her story, share her testimony of what she have been through with you. And we also have our wonderful co-host, Aurelie. Um, she does all the hard work behind the scenes. I thank God for her because she's doing an awesome job, I must say. If you need any help with setting up your stuff, she's right there.
Uh,
They can see you. So anyway, we're gonna give it over to Anita. So sit tight and listen. You may want to hear that story. You may want to hear that story. Okay? So sit tight. Don't leave. Take your snacks and take everything with you and stay right here with us. So Anita, I'm giving it over to you.
okay, so I'm going to just briefly introduce myself. My name is Anita Okanigbe-John. Um, I wear many hats. I wear many hats, and but the one that I love mostly to be described by is a change catalyst, and a kingdom influencer. I just love those two titles. But I mean, I also am an author. I have written 8 books. I'm working on my ninth book.
Wow.
The one that many people know about is my autobiography, Miracle in the Storm. I am a certified um, coach, performance coach. What else do you want to know about me? I'm a master degree holder. I have 2 degrees actually. I have international law and diplomacy, my first degree, and my second degree is human resource management and business, but and many other certificates. But with all that certificate, the one that what I love most to do is imparting lives. It's so rewarding and so impactful. Just touching life with my story and rekindling people's faith and restoring people's hope. And, I'm making people believe in miracles again. And that is what my story
Amen.
has helped to do. So that's a brief introduction. So let me know when you want me to go right straight into my testimony.
Yeah, you can go.
Just go ahead. Okay.
Yes, go for it.
Mhm.
Okay, so as we know, the title of today's episode is Storm Tested and Faith Proven, right? For me, it's not just a cliche phrase, right? It is my life journey. Actually, it's my scars, my healing, and it's about the hand of God upon my life. I probably shouldn't be alive today, but God
Mm.
had a reason for me to be alive, and He created me for a purpose. So I was born the seventh daughter of my father. And at the time, he in Africa, right? The men always wanted to have a boy, because you is when the ladies grow up, they'll get married, they will drop their father's name, and they go live with their
Mm.
husband. But the man is the boy child is the one who would take on the father's name, right?
Mhm.
The son name especially. So the father kind of live on through him. And if the father is very wealthy, like my father was at the time, he will be the one to inherit all the properties. So, of course, when the doctor said to my father, "Congratulations, your wife has given birth to a bouncing baby girl," he was so furious and so angry. Like, what did
Wow.
I do, God, that you punish me with 7 daughters? Like, what? He actually walked out of the hospital. He didn't pay the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't pay the hospital. He walked out. And my mom was so confused. She didn't know what to do with a baby in the hospital. There's no way they're going to let her leave, right? Without paying the hospital bill. And so she sat down there and she said she was praying inside of her, God, you have to do something. I can't leave my baby and I can't, they're not going to release me. So what am I going to do? And it's an amazing God, I must tell you. And so there she was, someone else, I think a woman who came to visit a relative in the hospital, saw her there in the hospital, and and said, "Oh, I want to bless this child with some money." Guess what? That
Mm.
money was enough to pay the hospital bill.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was how she was released from the hospital. And she got back home. My father was so very upset. He was nowhere to be found, even during naming ceremony. After 8 days, you have to name the baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was not there. So it was just my mom and my grandmom. Yeah, my father's mother. She was born again at the time. So through her, I was given amazing names. I have 5 names. I'm the only one in my family with 5 names.
Wow.
So one is Igodaro. It means this child, the future of this child is better than her past. Like my future is better than my past. Even at that young age, my grandmother gave me that name as if she knew that was going to happen. And then she gave me another one. It's a tongue twisting name. Eke Giniwara Konowahe. Don't judge
Wow.
this child yet because you don't know what she'll become in future. You know. And today, looking back
So
now,
good.
yeah, today now looking back, I have become that the stone that was rejected that become the chief
Yeah.
that summarizes my life right now. And
Mhm.
so there I was. I grew up being punished for things I didn't do, being beaten for things I did. I used to think my parents were not my parent because any little thing that goes wrong, oh, it's Anita, without even giving me an opportunity to defend myself. So it was very tough growing up. I didn't have a normal or happy childhood. So at the time I was 8 years old, I was sexually abused by somebody my father trusted. And my father at the time, he always acted like a military man, like, bossy and all that. So we used to be so afraid of him. So I couldn't even tell him what happened to me. I couldn't tell my mother. I couldn't tell anybody. So I carried that scar inside of me for a very, very long time. I couldn't express it. I didn't even know what it was, what the man did to me. I just knew that it was whatever it was painful and it wasn't comfortable, but I didn't know how to express it or how to explain it to someone, right? And my father wasn't someone you could go tell that kind of a thing. First, I was afraid for myself and for the man because I knew my father would kill him. My
Mm.
father would kill him. And then he would probably punish me for leaving the house because I actually left my house to their house to watch television because at the time we're not allowed to do that in the house. You just have to carry your books, do your chores, read your books, and that's it. We're not allowed to watch TV. Yeah. But they were neighbors actually. So, but they were neighbors and they were allowed to watch TV. And at the time, I just wanted to watch TV, you know. And so that was how I went to their house to watch TV. And the father, I was playing with the kids at the time, and then watched TV. And then their father came and then molested me. Anyway, so I couldn't tell anyone for a very long time. But all the things that were going on in my house was still going on, still being punished for things I didn't do. And even when I explain to them, sometimes I'm not even given the opportunity to explain. So I was so sure my parent were not my parent. But at last I found out that they were actually my parent, right? So by the time I was, I think, 10 years, 10 or thereabout, 10 or 11, I can't remember now. I was taken away from my parent. So before, my father was very wealthy, but somehow he made a bad investment, and so he lost his money and he lost some of his properties. So he couldn't really take care of it
Oh.
at the time. He couldn't pay school fees and things like that. And so a relative said, "You know what? I could help train some of the kids," and then she took me. At the time, we're living at a different. So back in Nigeria, we have states, right? I was living with my parent in Delta State, and this relative was living in Lagos State, and they were wealthy. When I mean wealthy, I mean they had like 12 cars in the house. They had, if they're traveling, they go with private jets. They had houses everywhere. So I mean, money wasn't the problem at the time. So my father was like, okay, I mean, if you could take this burden out from my hand, then that would help. At least I have less mouths to feed and take care of. So when she came to pick me, I was so excited. Yay, I'm finally leaving this house where I get beaten and punished for things I didn't do. I probably go to a rich person's house. I'm gonna enjoy.
Mm.
I didn't know I was leaving the frying pan into the fire. Oh, things became really bad in the house, and oh, they were so wealthy that they had five female nannies, two male nannies, two mobile
Wow.
police in the house, two drivers, and
Wow.
one security man. Yeah, that was how the house was. It was big. That all these people were in the house, and so every time she treated me bad, they wonder, "Are you sure this this lady is your relative?"
It's
She's actually my half sister. Actually, my father's daughter. Yeah, and they're like, the only reason they believed me was because we kind of look alike. We both look like my father. So like, if not, they would not believe that we're related in any way. Like she treats you so bad. We are not family, and she treats us so well. But with you, what did you do wrong? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going. It's a long story. I have all that in my autobiography, Miracle in the Storm. But I'm just gonna, run through it. So she would beat and punish me. In fact, the bad thing, she would strip me naked in public. I mean,
oh.
naked, no pants, no bra, just
Oh.
yeah.
How old were you then?
I think it started when I was about 11. Yeah, about 11, 12. I lived with her for about 7 years or 8 years. So she was supposed to put me in school, but she didn't for months. And then her husband kept asking her, "Why is this girl not in school? I have enough money to pay for her school fees. Why
Mm.
is she not in school?" And she would say, "Well, don't argue with me. She's my sister. I could do whatever I like to her." And then when her kids are ill, like let's say they have like cold, when you have catarrh, cold, cough,
Mhm.
I get punished because she said it's my fault. She would say that my mom sent me to kill her children. Yep. And so so it means that that day no school for me. She wouldn't let me go to school that day because her kids are ill. So I missed a lot of um school days. I couldn't go to school because her kids are either ill, and I dare not say I'm going to school. And my school was far from where the house was, and she wouldn't drop me at school. I mean, there were 12 cars, right? She wouldn't drop me at school. She wouldn't let her husband drop me, and she wouldn't give me transportation, money to get. Yeah, so I have to walk
Oh.
long distance to
Wow.
school. And if her husband offers to drop me up, she gets upset.
What was that?
Yes, so sometimes I get to school late. But I mean, here you don't punish a child for coming late, but back in Africa, yeah, you get punished for
Yeah.
coming late.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I get punished, and sometimes when it's closing time, I have to run to the gate of the school to wait for the bell, and then I'm running back home like a mad woman because she'll be there looking at the time. And she said I don't know if she forgets that she didn't give me money for transportation. I don't know if she forgot that there was no way for me to get back home except walking, which would take me about 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So I'm running, and she says to me, "The school closed at about 2:10. Why are you getting home at 2:20?" And I only got home just 10 minutes because I was running like someone who is being pursued by a lion, right? Every day that was that was my story, every school days. And of course, like I said, when the kids are ill, I'm not allowed to go to school. So I missed some exams, I missed so many things. So that really got her husband very upset. And he kept asking, "Why are you treating this girl this way?" And then she'll quarrel with her husband, "Why are you supporting her?" So one day he decided to you know, um, stop asking her that question because apparently it's becoming too quarrelsome for them, right? So he will come to me and say, "I'm really so sorry your sister is doing this to you," and all that. And through that, he began to molest me. Yeah, he would pin me to the wall and force me to kiss him, touch my breast and all that. And he just kept going on for that for so long. And every night I'll be afraid to go to bed because he would come in as
Mm.
surely as he would come in every night. I it became what's the word now? It became tough to sleep at night because I couldn't lock my door. So he would always come in. He would just wait for his wife to sleep. And um but thankfully, there was no penetration, right? So just the day he was always fondling with my body and forcing me to kiss him and all that. The day that would have happened, the day he would have truly raped me, he had he came in stark naked. He came into my room stark naked, and then he had taken off my underwear, right? He had taken off my pants and all that. And just before he raped me, my sister came in and saw him. Guess who got punished? Me.
You?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I got punished. And she said, "You want to take my husband from me?" Mind you, I was about 14 at the time, So, I mean, after that, I got punished, she beat me and all that. The husband came back later to apologize, but that didn't stop him. That continued for a long time. So
Mm.
her kids will misbehave and I get punished for it. I'm like, why are you punishing me for what your children are doing? You know, she would beat me until there's blood. If she doesn't see blood on my body, she would not stop. And
What?
yeah,
Why?
and then she would make sure that after beating me, she'd tear whatever I'm putting on, so I have almost nothing left. It becomes like a rag, and so I have to tie it here, tie it there to be able to kind of hold some part of my body together. And then she would take my entire suitcase of clothes to her room, so I don't have access to them. So whatever I was putting on, the pieces of rags that I have left, that's what I'll wear for as long as whenever she comes down, 7 days, 1 week, or whatever it is. Yeah. And yeah, so my body's exposed to everyone in the house to see, right? And then she kept doing this. And when her friends come, sometimes her means of entertaining them is to beat me and punish me in front of them. It was funny for them. So anyway, so when I got to I don't know what the system is here, but in back home, it's called secondary school had two stages. You have the JSS, which is the junior secondary school classes, and then you have the SS, which is the senior secondary. So I had done the JSS just before I entered the SS class, SS1. Um, During exam period, she didn't let me go to school because apparently her kids had code. So I missed that. So I failed, right? And I got punished for that as well. So she stopped me from going to school. So you have to do JSS 1, JSS 2, JSS 3 for you to finish from secondary school. So I only did JSS 1, right? So sorry, I had to do JSS 1, JSS 2, JSS 3. Then when you get promoted to SS1, right? So you do SS1, SS2, which is senior secondary school, right? And SS3. Then you graduate from secondary school. Now I only did SS1. She stopped me at some point and said, you know, because you failed, then you're not good for school. So just sit down at home doing nothing.
Mm.
Yeah. And she locked me in the house for 1 whole year. 1 whole year. I was not back home. You have a house, a compound with all walls, then you have a gate. Unlike how it is here, right? It's all open. But back there, they're not as open as this. You have a house in the compound with walls all over, and then the gates, right? So I was locked in there for 1 year. I was not allowed to see outside. I didn't know what was happening outside. I didn't go to school because she had stopped me from going to school. I couldn't do anything. So at that point, I got so frustrated. I said to myself, if God is not going to take me out, I'm going to kill myself because nobody was allowed to visit me. My mom wasn't allowed to visit. Nobody was allowed to visit. And then anybody who wants to visit because they are aware of the mobile police in the house, they would you think twice, because I mean you don't want anybody to shoot you, because these mobile police were around with guns. So, and every trespasser was going to be shot down. So you wouldn't want to be dead, because yeah. So nobody was allowed and nobody dared come. Everybody was afraid. So I said to God, you know what? If you're not going to save me, I was going to kill myself. So I tried to kill myself, but God wouldn't let me die. Now I'm glad He didn't. But at the time, it was so bad that I needed a way out, and I couldn't find a way out because I couldn't. I was locked up in the house, right? So I couldn't even approach the gate. And she had given a warning to the security man and the mobile police not to see me even in the compound. Not even the compound. I have to be inside the main house. If they see me, they will have to report to her, and when she comes back, I get punished. So one particular day, I just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. God, you have to help me. And suddenly I heard a voice, get up, it's time to go. I'm like, hmm? Like, that was new to me. Like, and I was alone in the house, in the room. Get up, it's time to go. I was like, I think it repeated itself like 3 times. So I got up and I started walking towards the kitchen, and I heard, no, not that door. So I hesitated a while and I peeped through the window and I saw that one of the security men was talking to one of the nannies, the female nannies. So I was like confused, and I heard again the voice say, to the main door. Mind you, this main door, we hardly ever use that main door. It's always locked with padlock. Everybody kind of just come through the kitchen door into the main house. So it's rarely used except we have very important visitors, right? Which, you know, we rarely do, because this man was a traveler. He travels a lot. So it's when he comes home, when he does his, he tries to molest me and all that. So sometimes he spent 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks were like hellish for me, you know. Sometimes he spent 1 month. So we rarely use that door. So when I head to that door, I'm like, hi, is this is this my mind? Or is, what? Because I didn't have experience with God then. I wasn't born again or anything. So I just knew that there was some being up there, right? So, but I walked towards that door, lo and behold, there was no padlock on the door. Like, what? So I opened it and I went out into the compound, and I looked around, nobody. It was like a ghost town. I'm like, what happened? We have five nannies, female nannies, two male nannies, two drivers. Where is everybody? I know that one driver went out with her. I know that one of the mobile police and one nanny were at the kitchen talking. So what happened to everybody? Nothing. I'm like, where did they all go? So I kept hearing the voice tell me, just move, go forward. So I walked towards the gate. The gate is usually locked, but this time the gate was open. I was like, what? Like, so it wasn't, there was no padlock on it. So I opened it well, and then I walked out of the gate into the street. I hadn't seen the street like in a long time. So I walked, and then I came out into to the street, and then there was the security man somewhere not too far. When he saw me, he was shocked and was afraid. And he started running towards me. What are you doing? You need to go back into the house. Your sister is gonna kill me. You will kill, in fact, she will kill both of us. You should go back inside the house. And I said to myself, no, 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 I will never go back into that house. So as he was moving towards me, I was moving towards the street, more away from the gate, right? Because I knew that he was gonna probably push me in. So I was moving out towards the street. So when he saw that he couldn't drag me, he said, "What are you doing? What are you?" I said, "Well, I just want to go see somebody just down the road. There's this I don't know how to call it. There's this, we call them malams. I'm not sure what word to use. Okay, so they're not very they're like poor. They live in the shacks, this kind of. So I said to him, "Oh, I just want to give the daughter something." He just said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yes." Will you come back now? I said, yes, don't worry. Of course, it was a lie. I knew in my heart I wasn't going to come back, right? But I didn't want him to push me back. So he said, okay, you need to be fast. Come back quick before your sister get back. I said, no problem. Don't worry. I'll be back. And that was how I ran and never came back. So long story short, her brother-in-law had come to visit, I think a week before, and saw me at home. And he said to me, "Why are you at home when children are in school?" And I said, "I don't go to school." And he said, "What do you mean you don't go to school?" I said, "Well, my sister stopped me from going to school." He said, "That's why would she do that?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Would you like to go to school?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You know what? I'm ready to help you. You just let me know how to help you, but I can't take you out of this house because first there's CCTV. They're going to see that I took you out, and my brother, which is so my sister's husband is his brother, right? My brother is going to be mad at me. So if you can find your way out of this house, give me a call, and I will see how I can get you into school." So that was what happened. So as soon as I came out, he had left some money with me, so I was able to, then there was no GSM, of course. So I had to go to a where you get this pay phone, like cyber cafe, right? So I called him and he said, "Okay, do you know what? Get yourself ready. I will take you to school." But I said, "I don't have any certificate. I didn't finish school. I didn't." He said, "You know what? I could get you someone who would do a fake certificate for you just to get into school. So when you get
Mm.
into school, you will now have to make sure you go back and do
Wow.
the exam and make sure you pass so that they can replace the fake certificate with the real certificate." And I said, "Okay, no problem." So long story short, he arranged that, right? And I got the fake certificate. I was able to get into the school. So then he gave me money to go back to. There's a way back in Nigeria you could, if you didn't do secondary school or you didn't finish secondary school or you're an older person, you could do what they call external exam. I think they, yeah, there's a way they call
Mm.
it here now. I can't remember. Almost like night school. Yeah. So yeah, so you could do that and then get your certificate. It's gonna be the same certificate, right? But it's just that you didn't do it with other people in school. So he said, "I got him the money," and he told me this. He now introduced me to a lady who could help me, right? So I said, "Okay." So I gave the lady the money. Apparently, the lady spent the money and didn't use it to register me in for the night school,
Oh.
and she didn't tell me. So I kept asking her, "Oh, when am I going to do the exam?" Or she said, "Oh, don't worry, just in a few weeks' time." Okay. And one day I noticed that, so they usually do this exam when the normal school are on holiday, right? Yeah. So I noticed that one day I noticed that there were some people who were coming back from school, and I asked them, "What are you guys? I mean, children are on holiday. Why are you guys coming out from school for?" They said, "Oh, we went to do the external exam." I'm like, "What? This lady was supposed to register me, and I'm supposed to be doing this exam with these people. So why am I not doing it?" So I went back to her and I said to her, "What happened? You never said anything. You kept telling me, 'Don't worry, you will do the exam, you will do the exam.' And now I just met some people who just told me that they're coming from that exam. So what happened?" She said, she didn't, oh, didn't she tell me that she gave the money to a fraudster or something and then ran away with the money," which was a lie. I got to know later she spent the money, but she just lied to me. Of course, there was nothing I could do. And I had already entered the school with a fake result, right? So she kept demanding for money. And my sister-in-law kept giving me money, right? And every time she said she wants 20,000, she wants 50,000, I would get it and I would give to her. But she kept spending the money without using it to help me for my school.
Mm.
So one day I just got frustrated. I said, "No, I cannot continue with this life, and I'm just gonna." Just gonna keep. And then she kept threatening me. You entered with a fake result, right? I said, "Yeah, but I kept giving. I've been giving you money. You're supposed to use this money to get me the right, to register me so that I can do the right exam." And she said, "Oh, you need to bring another money." And then I kept giving her money. At some point, I said, "No, no, no, no. I can't keep doing this. Let me figure this out myself." Yeah, because I was so naive and I didn't know my way around. So I was unable to figure it out. Then I said to her, I just said to myself, "I'm not going to continue schooling with this fake result. I didn't feel it in my spirit to do that. So I'm just going to, if it means leaving the school, I will leave the school." But the question was, where am I going to go? So I finally left and she was very upset. She said she was going to deal with me. She was going to punish me. I said, "Well," so I had to leave and go to another state. And long story short, I ended up on the street because I didn't, know my way back to my parents in Delta State. And the only place I've known since I was 10, was Lagos State, which is where I was. And I didn't want to go back to her house, my sister's house. So I ended up on the street. And I started living on the street. I became homeless and living on the street. And I would go for days without food, days without having my bath because no place to stay. Sometimes I will have to sleep on the floor in people's garage, like someone's driving garage. And the night I would just go there and just sleep there. And then I ended up begging strangers for food to eat, for water to drink. And in those times, I think I spent about 3 years on the street. Yeah. Yeah. In those years, God delivered me from men who wanted to rape me. He just have a way of delivering me. In fact, I would just share one of the stories. There's a particular time I was so hungry. I hadn't eaten for, I think, 2 days. And I saw this man. He looked like somebody who had money, and I said to him, please, can you just give me money to buy food? He looked at me lustfully, but I didn't mind because I just wanted him to give me money to eat the food, right? And he said, okay, I'll give it to you, but I don't have money. He did like this, like, oh, I don't have money in my pocket, but my house is not too far. I would just come with me to the house and then I will give
Wow.
it to you. Because I was hungry and I kind of
Wow.
like just, yeah, so I went with him. But it was a lie. His house wasn't just around the corner. His house was so far. And he dragged me down there. So we got there and it was late. It's probably like about 11 p.m. at night at the time.
Wow.
And I said to myself, I have come this far. Let me just eat the food and just go. So we got into the compound and we got into his house and he said, oh, don't worry, just come in. There's food everywhere. The food is all over the fridge. I have so much food, I don't know what to do with it. I said, okay. So that motivated me because again, like I said, I hadn't eaten at like 2 days or thereabout. Sometimes I lose count of all these days because I didn't even know at the time. I would even know which was Monday or Tuesday or Sunday. I was just I was just trying to survive. So we got in the house. Guess what? He locked the door and put the key in his pocket and went into his room.
Wow.
And then after a while, he started calling me to come to the room. And I knew what was going to happen if I get to the room, right? So I said, no, I wasn't going to come. He kept calling. And then what some point, he came and dragged me. I was putting on a jeans trouser, I remember very well. Um, and he came and dragged me to the room. And he was like, if you don't take this thing off, I'm going to take it off for you. And I was struggling with him. And then the next thing, that voice came back and said to me, don't struggle with him. Tell him you will do whatever he wants, but he should give you food because that was the reason why he brought you to his house, right? I mean, this voice could have only been God because if it wasn't God, only God knew that there was no food in the house. If there was food in that house, he would have given me the food and he would still rape me, right? So it's only God that could have, yeah. So that voice said to me, don't worry, don't struggle with him. Tell him you will do whatever he wants to do, but he has to give you food first because that was what brought you to the house. So as I said that to him, he kind of, it was as if, I don't even know how to explain it. He kind of calmed down and he stopped what he was doing and like something came over him, right? And he said, I lied. There's no food in the house. And I said,
Wow.
well, I said, but I'm very hungry and I really need to eat. So if you want, whatever you want to do, like I said, I would gladly do it, but just give me food so that I have strength. And he said, okay, it's late right now, but don't worry. There is, back in Nigeria, we have street food. I don't know if they have it here, but there's all over the street food. So they can be as late as 10 p.m., 11 p.m., because there are some people who are hungry, who don't have food in the house, who would go and buy. And it's very cheap. It's cheaper to buy those than to go and cook yourself. So he said to me, oh, there's a lady just down the street that sells street food. Would you like to eat that? Um, I said, yeah, there's some, we call it akara. It's beans cake. I think that's what it's in English, but it was akara and bread, right? So I said, yeah, I would eat that. So he said, okay, do you know what? I will just go, you just stay here. I will go and buy the food. And that voice said to me, no, tell him that you're going to go with him. So I said, no, I'll be too afraid too scared to stay in the house alone. Can I go with you? He said, I said, no, I want to go with you. I don't want to stay here. He said, okay, come with me. So we got outside the compound, and I said to myself, nothing is going to bring me back to this house. So it was more like a junction or a T street, this kind of street. Like it's you have the tail, yeah, that's the main out, and then you have the like this, right? So his house was somewhere in the tail of the T, right? So we got to the end of the street. There was a gate. Sometimes some streets in Nigeria, especially in the rural areas, have street on them because we have I don't know how to say it. Some people just come and disturb the residents there, so they built a street and they usually put security there. So the gate was locked. And he said to me, oh, the woman is on the other side of the gate. We need to climb over the gate. And the voice came back to me and said, tell him that you're too weak to climb. Let him go over to get the food and you wait for him here. So I told him, oh, sorry, I can't climb with you. I'm too weak to climb, but I'll sit down here and wait for you. He asked me, are you sure? And I said, yes. So he climbed over the gate, jumped over to the other side, and started walking down. As soon as he was out of sight, the voice said to me, run like your life depends on it. So I had to run back to his street into the other corner. Like I said, it was a T, yeah. So I got to the end of that place. At this point, it was past midnight, right? And there was no light. We don't like in Nigeria, we don't have electricity like we have here, right? So sometimes, yeah, the government might decide to just either cut off the electricity for a few hours or a few days or whatever. At the time, there was no light. So the only trickle of light I had at the time was the moonlight, right? So I kept walking towards the other end of the T street, right? And then suddenly I saw a man who was peeing, urinating just by the road. So I waited for him. At the time, I felt so much peace. It didn't occur to me, look, you're running from a man, and then you're running into it didn't even occur to me at the time. I was just so at peace, just saying. So I waited for him to finished his business, as though soon I was done urinating. And I shouted and I called out to him, help me, help me, help me. So he turned back and he saw me. I said, what is it? I said, there's a man after my life. He wants to kill me. He said, come, 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 come. So he took me into to the compound. Like I said, in Nigeria, there's always a compound before the main building, right? So there's a gate and then the compound and then the main building. So as we're walking into his house, and I saw that he has a toilet. In my head, I'm wondering, why didn't he use the toilet? And it's like, why did he come out of the building, out of the compound, into that could have only been God that positioned him to say. So I was asking him, he said he doesn't know, that he just felt he needed the God
Wow.
to speak. And I thought that was God. So that
Wow.
was how he saved me. But when I got into his house, I was so afraid to that was when fear returned. So when he was saving me, I wasn't afraid. But when I got into his house, it just dawned on me, oh my God, you are in another man's. Yeah, like, okay, did you just run from frying pan into the fire? What's gonna happen? So he noticed my fears and he said, no, no, don't worry, I'm not gonna touch you. I said, yeah, thank you. He said, just slide down on the bed. I said, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna put a mat. I don't know what it's called here now, but it's like a mat, like yeah, like it's not a mattress, but it's something like a mattress you can put on the floor. So if you don't want to sleep on the bed, you can sleep on that.
Yeah.
I said, nah, I'm not gonna. He said, are you gonna stand all night? I said, yeah, because I was so afraid at the time, right? So he said, okay, well, like I said, I'm not going to touch you. You can actually sleep on the bed. If you don't want to sleep, I'm just going to go to bed because I'm going to work the next morning. I said, no problem. So I stood after a while. I was tired. I just lay down on the mat and I slept. So the next morning, when he woke up, he gave me some money. I said, take this and go home. I'm like, I don't have a home. What do you mean you don't have a home? I'm like, I'm living on the street. Oh my goodness. The man like, I don't know how else to help you, but I'm going to work and I don't have much. You can see I live in just one room and a bathroom and all that's all I have. I said, don't worry. And I went back to living on the street, and I kept moving from one street to other. And then one day, just it's a long story, so I'm just gonna cut it as much as possible. But at this time, I didn't know God like God. Like I knew there was a God, right? I didn't have a relationship with Him. But looking back now, I can see His hand in all my journey and helping me and all that. So I ended up somewhere in the border between two states. Is like saying border between Ontario and I don't know what the next year. Yeah. So it
Quebec, yeah.
divided by a river, right? So it was divided, but by the corner, by the bird of that river or the corner of the river or something like that, there were some people who um they don't have a home, so they it's like being homeless, right? They have shelter, those shack kind of shelters where they sleep. So yeah, all across the the seabed, just all across like that. So I was somebody just offered me one. So I met a friend and she said, you could come stay with us. So it was just what they had one room in that kind of building, and her brother was there. Her brother was married, so her brother, the brother's wife, the baby, and her in one room. And then she wanted to add me. Meanwhile, she didn't ask her brother for permission. She just saw me and she had pity on me and she said, "Come live with us." Of course, when I got there, the brother said, "No, there's no space for all of us here."
Hmm.
So she said, "You know what? Don't worry. I'm going to ask my neighbor, who is just he's alone in the shack, just one room by himself." So she asked him, and can she sleep tonight? The man said yes. So I did. The next morning, she said, "You know what? Let me ask him and see if he can allow you to stay 1 week." And the
Hmm.
guy said, "Of course you can, but if you allow me to sleep with you." And I said, "Nope, you cannot sleep with me." He said, "Well, then you cannot sleep in my house." I said, "Okay, then no problem. I'll go back to the street." So
Wow.
I went back to the street. I said, "Why are you so stubborn? All you need to do is just sleep with me and then you have all you." I said, "Nope, I'm not. I'd rather go back to the street."
Hmm.
And so, so I went back to the street. And long story short, the lady also arranged for someone else, and I ended up there. And while I was in that shack, I love children, right? So there were some people who had children. I could just go play with them and all. And then one day I went to play with one of the there was a lady that I really got fond of her children. So I usually go there and I was just playing with her and I saw a pamphlet, like a pamphlet, church pamphlet.
Yeah.
And then I was drawn to it, like it was like a magnet drawing me to this pamphlet. And I took it and read it. It was about a church. It said the Redeemed Christian Church of God. I was like, wow. So I said to her, do you go to this church? She said, no, that usually they get some people who come to evangelize. They have just some people who just come to share the word of God and they drop their pamphlets. But she's Catholic. She doesn't want to go to any Pentecostal church. I said, can I go? Can I take this? She said, yeah, you could take it. And I said, okay, I want to find out where the church is and then I'll go. So I did. And I asked her, what day is it? She said, it's Friday. So when is Sunday? She said, next 2 days. She said, okay. I said, okay, I'll go to look for the church. Luckily for me, it wasn't too far. So I went to the church and altar call was made. I didn't know how I got to. So you back in Nigeria, many times when they make an altar call, you have to come down to the front of the altar, right? And they pray for you. I didn't know. I don't know if I flew there or I don't know how I got there, but I ended up there. I just saw myself in front of the altar. I don't know if the angels picked me up from my chair and dropped me there, or I don't know how it happened, but I saw myself there. And they prayed, and then I gave my life to Christ, and that was the beginning of it all. And oh my goodness, I loved it. And because it wasn't so far from where I was living, I decided to start going every day. Now, in that church, they go to church every day except Monday. Tuesday there was a Bible study. On Wednesday there was something going on. On Thursday there was
Wow.
faith something. There was always only on Mondays they don't go to church. So I was going every day. Every time the church was open, I was going. So I became very committed, and because it was like this was I fell in love. I fell in love with Jesus. So it was so sweet. So it was, I don't know what word to use. It was just so amazing. So I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to be a part of it. So I joined the choir, I was always committed. When they say come for a meeting, I was always the first person there. Do this, who is going to be available? My hands and my legs are up. I am ready. I mean, I'm available. And so one day, while we are at it, so I joined the youth pastor at the time. The youth pastor, I think I can't remember if I was the one who told him or he just like took interest in me. You're so committed, right? You're so, where do you live? Where are your family and all that? I said, well, I don't have a family. What do you mean you don't have a family? So where do you live? I said, I live by myself. Where I said in a shack somewhere. He wanted to come say it. So I said, okay, I'll take you. So I took him down. When he was, remember he's by the river, right? He was so afraid. He was like, where are you taking me? I said, I'm taking you to where I sleep. What do you mean where you sleep? This place is not fit for human beings to live, let alone a young girl like you. I said, don't worry, just come. I'm safe here. How do you mean you are safe? He was so scared. But when I got there and I showed him, he said, no, 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 no. You can't continue to stay here. No, this is not fit for a human being to stay, let alone a young girl. And then you come to church every time, always laughing, always committed, like nothing is wrong. Like somebody would have thought that you're coming from a very wealthy home, a very what? No. So he said he was going to, that was on a Sunday, right? So he was going to talk to the pastor, the main pastor. So on Tuesday, he did that and he talked to the pastor, and they said, no, they all agreed that I shouldn't stay there. So they kind of found a home for me to stay temporarily. Remember, I hadn't gone back to my father and my mother. I didn't know my way back home. So they said, okay, you know what, live with these guys temporarily and until you're able to sort yourself out and see how you can figure out where your parents are and go back to them in the Delta state. I said, okay, no problem. So long story short, I ended up living with them 4 years instead of, yeah, two, originally 2 months. So, and I did everything. I cooked for them. I cleaned the house. I took care of the kids. I was, just that. So one day, so while I was, one of the good thing they did for me was that they made sure they realized that I was interested in education. Remember, I told you I dropped out of school. I didn't, yeah, yeah. So the man made sure that I did that exam. Remember that exam that the other woman, yeah, he paid for it. I did the exam. I passed. Yeah. And then I also, there's when you're done with senior your it's called WAEC, West African School Living Certificate. I think that's what it is. You have to do that before you do another one called JAM. That's the one used to enter university. Right. So in their house, I was able to do all that. I did the JAM and all that. So the only thing remaining was for me to get into university. And they said, at this point, we still really don't know you, right? Even though you've lived with us for 4 years, we still don't know your parent. We've not seen anybody from your house, your village, or anything. We don't want to, we can't bear that burden of, being responsible for your university because it's a lot of money, right? So we can't bear that burden. So what are we going to do? Um, so I kept praying. I said, God, you have to do something. At the time I heard that my father died. Yeah, my father died at that point. So it was just my mom. And of course, she couldn't take care of the rest of the kids, let alone paying for my school fees, right? So, long story short, I just continued going to church and being faithful in all the things that I was doing. And so, there was a competition in church that said anyone who comes up top would get a scholarship, you know, to go to university. So, unfortunately, I came second. Yeah, I wasn't the top person. I wasn't. I came. My position was second. But one of the pastors said, I see you're hungry for education and I would really love to support you. Before then, there were no private universities in Nigeria. It were just public universities. And they were always, we usually have this cutters, these court members who come and kill and do mayhem in schools. And instead of students staying 4 years, some end up staying 8 years and all that. And I said to God, when it's time for me to go to university, I want my 4 years to be my 4 years. And I used to tell some of my friends that in church, and they would ask me, how are you going to do that? This is what we have right now. All schools, all students experience that. You know that your 4 years is never your 4 years, because when these guys come to do their mayhem, they will always extend your years. So instead of your 4 years, you do, if you're lucky, you do 6 years. If you're lucky, 8 years. Some people stay 10 years. Yeah. And so I said, no, no, I don't know how God is going to do it, but my 4 years is going to be my 4 years. So they always laugh at me like, how is that possible? Are you a magician? I said, I don't know. So when this guy, at that time, guess what? When it was time for me to go to school, that was when the government of Nigeria decided that they're going to allow private universities. So in private universities, this nonsense was not going to happen. Your 4 years is your 4 years. Now, but the private universities are extremely expensive, right? So how am I going to get into the private university? So when this guy asked me, when we'd had that Bible quiz and I came out second, and he said, even though you didn't come out tops, you didn't come out first, but I see that you're hungry for education, and let me see what I can do. Give me time. I said, okay, no problem. So he came back to me, I think a week later, and said to me, have you heard of Babcock University? It's one of the first private university. Government at that year approved 3 private universities, and Babcock University was one of them. And he said, have you heard of Babcock University? I said, yes. Your son is my friend and he goes to Babcock University. And he said, how would you like to go to Babcock University? I'm like, how would you like to go to? Is that a joke? Of course, I would like to go to Babcock University, but how am I going to pay? He said, do you believe in God? I said, that sounds like a stupid question. Of course, I believe in God. Are we not in church? He said, no, 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 no. I mean, do you really believe in God? I said, yes. He said, then talk no more. Go to that school, find out what they need, what you need to get admitted into that school. I'm like, are you for real? He said, yeah. I said, how am I going to pay for the money? He said, don't worry about the money yet. You just go first, go find out what you need to get admitted into the school. I said, okay. I said, okay, no problem. So I went to the school and they said, oh, even though you have the government certificate to enter into university, but you will still do we have our, because it's a private university, you will do our private exam. And if you pass it, you will going to do screening. And if you pass, it will give you admission. But if you pass the exam and you don't pass the screening, there is no admission. So at the time, long story short, at the time, remember I dropped out of university, so secondary school, right? I didn't finish secondary school, right? I didn't do. I had 2 years or 3 years left of secondary school. I didn't do that. Now, at that time, that year was the seventh year. And seven has become a very, I don't want to, a miraculous number. I don't want to use lucky number because remember, I'm the seventh daughter. Now, this is so I noticed that God always does something for me 777 or multiple of seven. Yeah, I started taking notes and I noticed that. Anyway, this was the seventh year that I dropped out of school. So, and I didn't go back to school. So, how am I going to understand the exam? Right? I didn't understand the almighty formula, all those all those mathematics languages. I didn't know that. And he said, what, just go and try. You never can tell. If you fail, you fail. If you pass, well, that's a miracle. But you will never know if you don't go try, right? I said, okay. So I went there and then they did the exam. And then list of names of those who passed was called, and my name was there. I'm like, huh? What? I said, no, no, sorry. Can you? I asked, I told the man, I didn't hear my name because I wanted to be sure. I said, please, can you go through the list again? He asked me, what's your name? I told him. He said, yeah, yeah, he's right there. Anita Okanigbe-John. I said, can I say it? Because I needed to see it. He said to me, don't you know your name? I said, yeah, I know, but because I was in awe, like how? So and then they said you have to do the screening actually, so for them to determine if they're going to give you admission. I said okay. And guess what, we had people who came for the exam. We had 3,000 something people who came for that exam, and a lot of them were fresh out of secondary school, so they should be smarter than me, right? Remember, I left secondary school like 7 years ago and I never went back. So a lot of them didn't pass. We had 1,200 that passed out of 3,800. My name was there. So how? Now they did the screening and 800 passed. My name was there. Okay. So, and I was given admission. Now, the question is, how am I going to pay for the school fees? So I took the admission paper and admission letter, and I went back to them and I said, "You brought me this far. You raised my hopes. Now I have gotten the admission. You need to tell me how I'm going to pay for the school fees." And he said, "Don't worry. Do you believe in God?" He asked me that question again. Do you believe in God? I was like, what kind of a stupid question is that? Did you ever think that you were going to pass the exam or pass the screening or get the admission? Now you are here. Don't worry. God who started this journey will finish it. I said, like they say back in my country, okay, oh, I don't know if you know Nigerians, there'll always be oh in every last word. Okay, oh, you said so. How to drag the go. He said, don't worry, just relax. So I think a week later, he 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 called me and said, no, well, they called me in church and said, do you know what? I have the money for, I think it was 150,000 naira at the time. Um, he said, I have the money for your school fees, right? The first installment, but I can't give it to you because if I give it to you directly, they would think that I have something sexual going with you, right? I'm going to give it to the pastor of the church, the main pastor of the church, and then I want him to release the money to you. So what you're going to do is I'll give it to him today, and then on Tuesday, when you get a church for the evening service, you ask him for it. I said, okay. So on Tuesday, I went to the after service, I went to the pastor and I said, Mr. So said he gave you money for my school fees, and school has started and I need to get to school. And he said, and he refused to release the money. He said, the money is too much for someone like you. And beside, this is pedigree at the time because this was March 2021. It was pedigree at the time because they had started the main 100 level, I think September last year. So the next one was going to be September that year. But I didn't want to stay at home. So they asked me, if you want to start pedigree, you can just come and start with us pedigree. And then in September, we'll move you to 100 level. And I said, yeah, I'd rather do that. So he said to me, this money is so much that it can help like 5 other people go to government schools. Why do you want to use all that money just for you and just for a pedigree? We're not even sure if you're going to pass the pedigree. Remember, you've been out of school for 7 years. So I'm not going to release the money. I said to him, but this man said the money was for me. He said, yeah, but he put it in my care and I'm the pastor of this church.
Wow.
Right. And I'm saying that if I if I can use this money for 5 people for public school, why would I want to use all that money for just you for a private university? And we're not even sure if you know what you're doing. I was so angry, I was so upset. But I went back and I continued to pray. And like, God, I'm tired of living in this house. At the time, I had become the unofficial house girl in the house, doing all the works and all that. And I said, God, you know what? I don't mind going back to the street, but I'm done. I just need to go. Whatever you want to do, do. If you don't want me to go to the school, I understand it's a private university and it's expensive. I don't even know. This man is not promising that he will foot the bill all the way till I finish. He just saying, for now, this is what I can pay, and let's trust God for the rest. So I rather go back to the streets, right? So so I told the man, he was very upset as well, but there was nothing he could do. I mean, that was the main pastor, right? You're not gonna fight the pastor. He's just an ordinary, what to call it, parishioner or something like that. And so he said to me, don't worry, God always has a way. If this is God's will, you would go. I said, okay. Then if the following Sunday we had a program somewhere, another church, and they had a guest minister who was coming from who came from London at the time. And he was a big man. Everybody wanted to go. So I asked the people I was living with at the time if they were going. They said, yeah. So there was morning service and there was evening service. So we went for the morning service. So while we had the morning service, this guy, this prophet or pastor, whatever from London, he was a Nigerian, but he was living in London at the time. So he came. I actually call his name. His name was Pastor Matthew Ashimolo, and many people know him. So he came to this other church. He was a guest minister at the time. And then after praying, he said, we need to give a seed offering, that God was going to use the seed offering to do some mighty miracles in our lives. Mind you, I didn't even have $1, 1 naira for offering. I didn't have anything in my pocket. I had nothing. And these guys I was living with were sitting on the same row, right? So everybody had their offering, their seed offering, the 2,000, and they raised it up and he was praying for them. And then suddenly somebody started passing money from there was a roll in front of me, then another roll. Somebody passed money from the second roll down to the first row, then down to me. So I thought we were all passing the money down, right? So I thought I was gonna do this to pass to the next person because I saw people pass. The man said, "No, no, no, it's for you, it's for you." I'm like, so I opened it, it was a 2,000. I was like, what? He said, it's for you, sow the seed. I don't even know the man from any, if the man is standing right now, I don't even know where, yeah. So I was
Wow.
so I took the money and we finished praying, and Pastor Matthew said, draw a line on the floor and cross it and say, I'm a barrier breaker, I'm a line crosser, and just pray about it. And then God was going to do something mighty in your life. I said, okay. As I did that. So at the end of the service, the people who were sitting that I was living with were sitting beside me, got very upset. They said to me, why did you beg that man for money? Do you know he's a very important personality in Nigeria? You want to put us in trouble? I said, I didn't beg him. How would I have? I didn't beg him.
Oh,
I was sitting close by. How could I have? Was it my spirit that was talking to his spirit? How did I do that? I didn't even reach out to him. I kept passing money and I was going to pass down to the next person. And he said to me, it's for you. And they said, no, 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 you're lying about it. I'm like, how? They didn't believe me. So I just kept quiet. I didn't argue, but in my heart, I was happy that I did that. I didn't know the miracle God was going to do, right? So there was going to be an evening service. So I asked them, are you going to go for the evening service? They said no. I said, I would like to go. Please, can I go? They said yes. So I went. So in the evening service, Pastor Matthew said, there's somebody here that need a midnight miracle. If you're the one, raise up your hand. You'd have seen me. I raised my both hands and I was going to raise my legs. Anything. I just want to. God, I need that miracle now. This was 3 weeks, 3 weeks after the school had started. And because it's a private school, every day you miss school, you pay 5,000 additionally.
Yeah.
You can
oh
imagine
wow.
times 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, oh my goodness. So that night I couldn't sleep. After the service that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept, now I know it's God, prompting me to call a particular woman in church. At the time, it was landline. You had this line that they do grring, grring, not the GSM we have now, right?
Mhm.
So I waited for them to the next morning, I waited for them to go to work. When they went to work and I checked the phone book and I saw the woman's name that God was prompting my heart to call. I saw her name and I saw her number, so I called her. It was a Monday, right? Because the night before was Sunday, right? So I called her and I said to her, sorry, ma, I just felt in my spirit to call you. I don't know why. She said, no, no, don't worry. Anita, I've heard your story. I've spoken to my husband. I'm just waiting for you to call me. I'm like, what? She said, don't worry, get yourself ready for school. I'm like, "Well, she said, don't worry yourself. Just get yourself, go and pack, get yourself ready for school. Tomorrow, which is Tuesday, you will go back to the pastor. I'm going to ask him to release the money. And that was what happened. And then the next day, I went to go meet my
Wow.
now the money was in check. Well, they gave it to me as a check. So there was no extra money for transportation. There was no extra money or how I was going because the school was in another state. We're in Lagos State and the school was in Ogun State. Babcock University is in Ogun State, Elisha Remo, right? So I needed transportation to go there. They did not provide any other, just the check for the school fees, the exact drop of the amount of money, and it was in the check, bank check, I remember. So I didn't have, but God just provided someone else, a guy in church, and said to me, do you know what? I'm going to drop you in school. That's how he dropped me up to school. And then he bought provisions for me and all.
Wow.
So there I was wondering, okay, so if I pay this school fees, how am I going to survive? How am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? But guess what? This I didn't know that because it was a private university, when you pay for the school fees, it encompasses everything, right? The school fees was built in it, the feeding was built in it, and all that was. So there I was getting worried, but God had taken care of all that. Now the problem was I have the exact money. How am I going to pay the 5,000? Remember, for 3 weeks. So I went to where they were the registration, the registrar's office where people were registering. I got there, there was a queue, so you all line up, right? I noticed that they were asking people for late registration. They will calculate it. How long, how many days have you been late? Okay, 1 day, 5,000, you pay. 2 days, 10,000, you pay. 1 week, that you pay. So the person in my front paid. All the people in my front paid. When it got to me, I gave her my check. Guess what? She didn't ask me for late registration. She did as if I was like, I kept waiting. My heart was pounding. I was thinking, what story am I going to tell her? She didn't ask me. She finished. And I stood there. She was like, I'm done with you. Please clear the road. Let the next person. I, I was dazed. So I waited by the corner, waiting. I'm like, okay, let's see. Maybe it's not everybody that collecting the late registration. Guess what? The next person after me, she asked for it, and all the other people, yeah.
Come on.
That was I didn't.
Come on.
Anyway, long story short, I did my peer degree. At the end of the peer degree, you are supposed to have nothing less than a C, right, in all your subjects. Now I flunked all my subjects. I failed all of them because at the end of the teachers could show you a result before this was August, right? Before the 100 level. And I didn't know math at all. Like math is like it's I don't know 1 plus 1 when it comes to maths. I don't know. So of course I got an F. And every other subject I got D, E, F. I think I just got one C in one irrelevant course like that. Um, so I was downcast. Like I was really, really upset. Like, how do I go back to the pastor and say you were right? I wasted the money. I'm like, God, I have boasted to everybody that you brought me to this school. So if you don't do any miracle, your name will be defamed, not me.
I
Because
like that.
Praise the
I
God.
like that. I like
I said,
that.
God, it is you. I told you that I cannot swim. You say, don't worry, I will carry you to the end of the river. And then we got to the middle of the river where it's deepest. You dump me there. No. Granted, you should have left me where I was. You should not have carried me. How do I come this far and go back to the people, and say to them, you were right. I wasted the money. Oh, I'm useless. Oh, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to say anything. I said, I'm not even going to say anything. And because the school was using American system, it was affiliated to Andrews University in Michigan. So they were using American system. So they had 4 months summer holiday. So I said I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything to anybody. If they ask me anything, I'll come up with a story. But when time for resumption, I'm going to go back to school. God, whatever miracle, magic, I don't know what you're going to do, you will do it. But I refuse to be disgraced. It's you that will be disgraced because it's your name. I posted in your name. So everybody knows Anita went to Babcock University in the name of God. God provided. So that was what happened. So I went 4 months after I went back to school. When I was approaching school, I was seeing all those brilliant people who were trying to teach me in school, looking so downcast, some of them crying. I'm like, what happened? Oh, I didn't get admission to the main, remember it was a P degree, right? To the main course, which was like to enter the 100 level. I'm like, what do you mean? You were the one teaching me maths. You were all getting A's and all that. What would be my faith if you were not, if you didn't get admission? So but something said I was shaking. My hands were visibly shaking. My legs couldn't carry me anymore. I was asking myself, I couldn't go back. I was like, God, if I don't get this admission, I'm going to kill myself because how do I go back and tell people you were right? No, the shame was too much for me. I wasn't going to do that. But something just kept telling me, go to the school and check for yourself. Now, usually I don't like to tell this part of the story because some people don't believe it, but I know what I saw and I know what, some people say, it's just your mind, maybe. Anyway, but this has repeated itself before. There's a part of the story I cut off when I was in secondary school, where God did this kind of miracle, right, for me. But I didn't say because I'm just trying to speed up on the story. So I got there. The list was pasted on the wall so everybody could see it. My name wasn't there. I said, God, you would have thought that God was my mate or my younger brother. The way I was, I said, God, I don't know if you know real Nigerians, how if a Nigerian say, you're in trouble. The Nigerian said to you,
Oh yeah.
not saying a word. Or
Oh
it's
yeah.
two words. You don't need to speak too much. I said, God, okay, I'm gonna check again. So I went on the list again. I didn't see my name. 32 names. I didn't see my name. I said no. Hmm. Then I did like this. If a mother, a Nigerian mother, does like this to you, your own don't finish. You're in trouble. So I said, God, see, I don't know. It sounds funny, but I think if I'm God, I would have slapped my because I don't know how merciful God is. Can you imagine me talking to God like that? My
Right.
goodness. If I was God, I would have slapped the nonsense out of my head. Like, how dare you talk to me like that? But that was how I was. I was like, God, I my name should be there because my name is not there. How am I going to go back and explain to these people? I'm going to kill myself or something. Anyway, so I went back again. I checked. The third time my name was there. Every time I tell this story, they'll say it's a lie. I don't know.
And this was like the third time you
It was
checked?
the third time. I remember I was my hand checking number one. I will read the name. Number two, like that, slowly. So you can't tell me I wasn't blind. So I did that. The third time my name was there. So anyway, long story short, I got the admission. I started my 100 level. During matriculation, everybody had gone to get their pedigree results from the HOD. I was so afraid to go because I I saw the results right before the holidays. So I was so afraid. I don't know what magic or miracle God did. So I was so afraid to go check. I didn't check. But the matriculation time, someone said to me, the dean of student affairs or the head of department has been looking for you. I'm like, what? He said, your results, you're still with, the official one. It's still with him. And they're asking, why haven't you? I was scared. I didn't want to go. And I said, look, he's mandating you to go pick it up. So I went with my legs shaking and my hands shaking. And he asked me, what's your name? And I told him. And I said, Anita, yeah, okay, here. And I opened it in front of him. Guess what? A's, B's. The lowest number I had was a C, which was math. How he changed the F and E's and D's, I don't know. I said, excuse me, sir, I think you made a mistake. It was like there was somebody impersonating me. There's somebody else answering my name in that school. That's not me. He said, what do you mean? I said, what's your name? I told him my name. He said, yeah, that's your name. That's the result. I was so like I was in shock. They practically had to drag me out of that room, his office. Like my goodness, up to today, I didn't look at that result a second time. I went and hid it under my bed, and somehow I lost it. I didn't look at it. I was too afraid to look at it the second time. Like, how could that be? Anyway, long story short, I started school 100 level. I finished. There was no money for second year. Just to cut the long story short, and people started contributing. So I started doing well, and somebody would hear my story and said, "Oh, you're doing so well in school." I'm like, "Well, school is about to resume. I don't have money." Someone said, "You know what? I will continue," because the private university where it was like 300,000 naira, 500. At some point, it was like 3 million at the end. I didn't have all that. I couldn't go to my father was dead at the time. I could nobody, my family, nuclear or extended, could donate $1. But I needed to continue school. So there was this lady in church at the time. She said, I don't have money to give you, but I would go with you to every rich man I know in church to make sure that they all donate, even if it's $1. That was what she did. So every holiday we'll go and she would take me along. We'll go and harass all the rich men in church. So someone would give 500, someone would give 5,000, some would give 10,000, some would give 50,000. That was how I was collating my school fees, right? And then I'll pay for year two. I just make sure that I was studying well. I didn't have time for boyfriend. I didn't have time for nonsense. I knew who I was and where I was coming from. So I if I fail, then my own is how will your own don't finish, like we say back home in Nigeria, right? So my part was to make sure that I continue to study and make sure that I get my all A's and B's and all that. So God will somehow provide the money. So different people contributed till I finished my 400 level. It was tough, but yeah, strangers that didn't know me. This woman would just drag me from state to state, places to places until all the last kobo was completed, and then I'll go pay my school fees. And this is a school that you have governors' children, senators' children, rich people's children, and they were all thinking that my my father was a very rich man. In my mind, I would say to them, "Yeah, my father is a very rich man. His name is JOG. You know, his name is JESUS. His name is GOG. That's my father." And when I some of them that got to know that I don't even have a home. Every holiday, guess what? Every holiday, 4 months holiday, I end up in the street again because there's no place to stay. So finally, one lady took me in. She had just one room and she had five children, plus her and her husband, seven. And we are all staying in that one room. And I would do everything that I could for them. And she loved me like a child, like her own child. And for that 4 years, I ended up staying with her. And at the end of the day, I graduated and I said to God, if you could do this, I want to do my master's abroad. I don't know how you're going to do it. I've never traveled abroad. In fact, I had never seen an airport before, even though I lived in a state where airport was not far from me. The highest I'd seen was just see a plane pass. And I said to God, I was going to go. I don't know how I was going to do it. When I share it with a few friends in church, they would laugh at me like, you, how? How? I said, I don't know. But so I kept applying. And then I got admitted into Aston University in Birmingham, UK. The school fees at the time, this was 2011. The school fees at the time was £16,000. And I didn't even have £1, let alone £16,000.
Jeez.
But but I was determined to go, and they asked me to send all the documents. I did. By the time it was deadline to pay, I didn't have the money. So I wrote to the school and I said to them, I didn't tell them I didn't have the money. I said something came up. I'm not able to come to England and do my stuff with the school thing. Could you guys defer it to next year? They said yes, they could do that, but after next year, they will hold it. They will hold my admission for me for next year. But after that, they won't be able to keep it. I said, "Oh, don't worry. I would pay. Like I have the money. I didn't have them, but I was boasting in God, right?" I said to them, "Don't worry," because knowing what God did for me in Babcock University, I mean, if He could do that, then He can do the. So my faith was built up. So the following year, I just still didn't have the money when it was approaching I think just 1 month before the deadline. I still kept believing in God, and I said, God, I can't lose this. Why will you give me this admission if you're not going to pay for it? Why will you bring me this far? Again, why will you? I said I can't swim here. Then you take me to the deepest part of the river, you dump me there, and you say, find your way. You should have just left me. You shouldn't have given me this admission. If you give me this admission, then it means you're going to pay for it. So the last month, my church asked me to do something, carry out a project that it was a huge project I've never done before. But by faith, I carried it out. And I didn't know that one of the people I was helping was a very wealthy man who owned an oil company in Nigeria, owned a plane. I was just doing, what I was asked to do. And then the church was to travel to two countries for missions, right? And they were taking some businessmen, and this man was one of them. At the time, we had this. He was President Jonathan, right? I think this was 2011. Yeah. So I submitted the passport. This is the time where in Nigeria now, most of the embassies you don't have to go in person; you just submit your document. But at the time, you go in person because they needed to see you, interview you, and all that. And then these people were so busy, they couldn't go. They sent me to go. And I have never been to the embassy before. I've never traveled out of my country before. I know not jack about what's happening in an embassy. But they asked me to go. So I took all the about 30 um, international passports. I went there and they asked me, where are the people? I said, they can't come, they're busy. Like they're looking at me like I had horn. Suddenly developed horn on my head. Like, what are you saying? But anyway, long story short, it was Indonesian embassy and Philippine embassy. Somehow, the Indonesian embassy, I spoke to one of the pastors. They sent me some documents, and they accepted to work on this document. Now, this man I was talking about was one of them, right? And he said to me after I submitted the passport, he said to me, "Please, I need my passport back. I need to travel with the president." I said, "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I've given them the passport." He said, "No, go back to the embassy and see if they can release it." So I went back to the embassy, and lady I met at the embassy said, "Do you want does the person still want to travel?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No. When you submit your passport, until the visa is out, except you don't withdraw it. If you withdraw it, it means you're not traveling again." I said, "Well, this man is asking for his passport back, and I cannot. If you can give it to me, please give it to me." And he said he will be back in 2 days, and I'll bring it back. He said, "I don't know how I'm going to do this because I'm not the one issuing the visa, but I've already submitted it. Now, where it is, it's difficult for me to go get it, but I could try." So she went, and later she came back. She said, "You are very lucky. I was able to get it." And I said, "This man said he's going to be back in 2 days." She said, "I don't know if I'll be able to put it back, but let's see what happened." Long story short, the man came back, and this lady was able to put it back. We did this like 3 times. She said, "I don't know why I'm helping you, and I don't know why the visa is being delayed, because otherwise you will not have this chance to be doing back and forth." Right? So the third time we did that, and guess what? This man was so grateful. He asked me, "Have you ever thought of schooling abroad?" I said, "Well, I actually got admission, and next month is the deadline to pay the school fees, and I don't have the money." He said, "How much is it?" I said, £16,000. He said, "You know what? Just consider it done. Send me the details via email." I'm like, "Excuse me, sir?" He said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "No, I mean £16,000, because that was in millions in Nigeria. If you convert it to Nigerian currency, that was a million." He said, "Yeah, I heard you the first time. Just this is my email. Just send me this." I'm like, "Okay, maybe this man wants to he's looking for a girlfriend, or he will looking for who he sleep with and all that. If that's the kind of person you're looking for, I cannot be. It cannot be me. Remember, I had sexual abuse. I was abused when I was young, so that mindset was so there." He said, "No, just." I said, "Okay, no problem." I sent him everything in via mail. Guess what? A few days later, I got a mail from ASU University saying, "Congratulations, you've paid your full tuition fee."
Come
As
on.
if that was not enough, I was in
Come
shock.
on.
Like, as if that was not enough, I had to also pay 4,500 for accommodation. That was sorted out. And then I got an additional £5,000 to spend as I like. I got to you, and then my visa was straight up. I got it straight without hindrance, without delay. I was living like a king's daughter in the UK. After that,
Awesome.
just to cut the long story, I know because I'm trying to be conscious of time. Like I said, the whole story
Yep,
is
we're gonna give you till 7:30. That's it.
so
We'll
it's
wrap it
been
up.
one thing or the other, one storm of the other, but God always come through every time, and it kept building my faith. And so whenever I meet any difficult situation, I said, "God," I was like, I mean, I'm like David. God helped me to kill the bear and the lion. Goliath, you're just an uncircumcised Philistine. I mean, can you
Mhm.
just get your head? That's how it has been for me. So every time it's been tough. I tell you, it's been really tough. But as at today, I have been to God. Then one day God said to me, "I have opened the doors of nations unto you. You're
Come
going to go
on.
to nations to share your story. You're going to use your
Amen.
story to rekindle faith, restore hope, and make people believe in miracles again." I mean,
Amen.
people who don't believe in miracles, they think that miracle is just the Bible thing. But through your life, they're going to see. And someone like me who at 30 something, I've never seen a plane. Apart from seeing it in the sky, now I've been to 16 different countries, you know,
Wow.
and all sponsored, and
Come
it's just been amazing. Every time, even coming here was another form of miracle, but I wouldn't waste our time talking about it. It's just, you know, but with every storm that came my way, my faith was tested. And every time my
Mhm.
faith is tested, I remind God, and I say to him, "You are not a God who will start something and not finish." So I'll
That's
prefer you
right.
not to start it, because if you start it with me, God, you have to finish it. You
Come
have to
on.
finish it. That sometimes the way I talk to God, I was saying to myself, but it works with me. I didn't
Mhm.
know the love of a father
True.
or a mother. Remember, I was taken away from them, but God um appeared to me as a father, and of all names he's called, father is the best for me, because he's been that for me. Every
Mhm.
time storm comes, he always shows up. It's not been rosy and all that, but my faith is strong. When things that would
That's so
would kill
good.
things that will shake some people happen to me, and I'm still standing. And people ask me, why? What kind of human being are you? What kind of faith do you have? And I said, I'm like David. If God
Mhm.
can save me from the lion, he can save me from the bear, then he can save me from the Goliath. And it's always been like that. So let me just stop here. And if you have any
Come
questions,
on.
because I
Um,
could go on and on and on and on.
mhm. Yeah, you should go on and on. We have 3 minutes.
So let me just stop it
Then
here
we
and
got to
then.
go to prayer.
You know, I am honest.
Yeah.
I am so encouraged. I am so encouraged. You want to pray for people who are, just that I'm so encouraged by your story, just with what I'm walking through right now. So I'm so encouraged by that. So thank you for that. Just that faith level where it's like I gotta, gotta increase your
Believe.
faith
Yeah.
level
Yeah.
because He is the God
Mhm.
of the impossible.
Hmm. Hmm.
And one of
Amen.
the things that the Lord always remind me, even in tough situation,
Hmm.
is He still there,
Yeah.
right? Is that
Yeah.
we have to see Him in the
Hmm.
tough situations, not
Even
just
when
see
you
the
don't
situation.
see him, even when you don't see him, you don't hear him, he's always there.
He's
You just
there.
need to stand your ground.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are times that I've gone through things that would shake people, that would I'm shaking like I am. This thing could have killed me, but I'm like, God, I'm going nowhere. I'm stuck with you. I have no other place to go to. I am stuck with you. Even if I die, I'm stuck with you because I'd rather be stuck with you than leave you. You've come
Come
true for me. And then
on.
one of the days God said to me, literally, it's one of the gift that I'm so privileged to have and so thankful for is the gift of hearing from God. I used to hear people say, God said, God. I'm like, yeah, God said, yeah, right. How did you hear God? And one day I said, God, if you do
Mhm.
really speak, I want to hear you. And when it started, it was something else. And one of those days, and God asked me, Anita, have I ever failed you? Look
Come
back.
on.
Have I ever failed
Mhm.
you? And the question was real. And I said, and the answer was real as well. No, you have not. Even at the very last minute. There's sometimes that I have my miracles at the 11th hour, 59 minute. When you like I mean, it's so obvious even to a blind man that this will not work. God just comes through at the 11th hour, 59 minute when any other person would have given up. And I said, nope, nope. I'm just gonna hold on. I have no other place to go to. Where do I go to? You know, just like this guy said in the Bible, though the fig tree may not blossom, you know,
Yeah.
if you kill me, I'm still here with you. Whatever you do, I am stuck with you and I'm going nowhere. So whatever you want to do with me, do with me. I've come too far with God to just say, no, I'm going back. I have no place to go to.
Amen.
Come
Yeah.
on. Oh,
Amen.
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 Release that over. Yes, yes. Release just that level of faith and increase our faith. So release that over people today. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So you want me to pray?
Yes, please.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so Father God, I just want to first of all thank you for the opportunity to share my story. Um, And I thank you for the people who heard it. And I thank you for the people who are blessed by it. And I thank you for the stirring in the hearts of people who have heard it. And I thank you for the promise you've given me. You said to me that my story is going to rekindle faith, is going to restore hope, and is going to cause people who don't believe in miracles to believe in miracles again. And that is what I'm asking for. That many people who are watching right now or that will watch this later, I'm saying, Father, speak to them in a way that only you can speak to them, in a way that they will know that this is you. Speak to them in that way. Father, in the name of Jesus, increase their faith. Father God, touch them, speak to them, help them. And as many people who are trusting you for miracle, Lord, show them that you are not, you're not a respecter of person. What you've done for me, you can do for others. And I'm asking right now, oh God, do it for others. Make the impossible possible. You're the God who makes the impossible possible. You said if we believe, we can get the impossible. So I'm asking that you release a level of faith that is so high and mighty to the people who are here, that they will get to see you in another level. They will get to see you, in a different level. Let their eyes be open and let them begin to love you more, know you more. And as they begin to do that, show them mysteries that they never known before, heard of before. In the name of Jesus, let this testimony go near and far to restore hope, to restore hope, to rekindle faith. And Lord, may it bring people back to your kingdom. And as many that have been lost, let them find their way back to you. In Jesus' name,
Yes.
amen.
Come on. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Oh wow, you're such a blessing. We're gonna have to have you back. Oh
Yes.
man, like a part two or something.
I mean,
Yes.
the
Um,
We
entire
need
story, I
part
couldn't tell
two.
much. The
Two.
entire story is in
But
my book, Miracle in the
because
Storm.
yes,
So
I
yes.
realize I
Can
realize you have a lot and we cannot take all tonight.
yeah.
Because you won't stop tonight. So we cannot, so we'll have to bring you back. We definitely have to
I'll
bring
be honored to be back.
you back. Yeah, we will.
can you share a little bit where how people can connect with you, and then it'll be posted after.
Okay, yeah. I did send it to you. Do you want me to send it back?
Just
Oh,
verbally say
she
it.
said,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I have a website on Seller. If you go to seller.co, I think, CO, then you put my name, Anita Okanigbe-John. That is Anita, right? Anita, then Okanigbe is OKANIGBE dash John, right? And if you go to my YouTube channel, Extraordinary Moments with God, under the description, you will see the link as well. Just click on the link. And I think on my Instagram, the blessed one. That's my Instagram handle is the letter D, then blessed, BLESSED, then one number one. So the blessed one. On Nita John, you see that when you get to my page, there's a link there. You click on it, it takes you to either my website or my YouTube channel, whichever one. You will see it, still get it on description of my YouTube. And then you go to my Facebook, Anita Okanigbe-John. You would see my website there, and then you can see all my. I've written like 8 books, and I'm working on my ninth book, and then I have other stuff, my coaching programs and my training programs, all there. You could just see them, right?
So awesome. And yes,
oh,
it'll be posted on Facebook, comments, and then on the YouTube description. So you can definitely
Mhm.
go and find click that there for those who are watching. Oh, what a blessing. I'm just I love this. All right, Corinthia, on to you.
yeah. It's been a lot, but like I said, we're gonna get you back. So thank you for coming. Thank you for your yes.
Yeah,
I see
it's
there's a
just
lot
a
of
privilege
I
to be here.
see there's a lot of amazing comments on there tonight. I believe that you have really spoken to hearts out there, and it will continue to go.
Amen.
So we want to thank you for coming and giving us
Thank you for having me.
yes, for giving us such a wonderful testimony of your life.
Mhm.
You know, real stories, not something that's made up, but it's something that you experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the most amazing thing when you can speak out of your experience.
Hmm.
So we want to thank you for that. And
Thank you.
okay, Facebook friends, we'll see you guys again.